All right, guys. Now I'm going to tell you about a thing called difference of squares. It is just factoring, but it has a fancy name because it is literally a difference of squares. A squared is a square, 25 is a square, and then there's a minus sign in between. And it is going to do some pretty cool stuff, a trick essentially that you can just memorize, but we're going to also walk through understanding it as well, obviously, because, you guys know me at this point. All right, good. Step one, this type of a problem, a squared minus 25. There's nothing you could factor out. There's no common term, so it's going to be two parentheses. From there, we already understand, a squared, you're going to put those a's in the beginning. We have 25 over here. 25 is 5 times 5, right? There are also other ways to get to 25, right? So you can do like 1 and 25. I understand that. But when you have a difference of squares, you're always going to use the perfect square. So here we have 5 and 5. From there, as you guys know, we have plus, plus, minus, minus, plus, minus, minus, plus. All right. In this case, we need it to be a minus 25, which means we have to use either plus minus or minus plus. We cannot use either of those two because positive 5 times positive 5, positive 25, negative 5 times negative 5 also gets you positive 25. So it's got to be one of these two. And it turns out it doesn't matter which one. Sometimes it does matter, lots of times it does matter, but with difference of squares, because this 5 is exactly the same, this a is exactly the same, it won't matter if this is the negative 5 or if this is the negative 5, right? It's all the same. So here we go. We're going to do plus minus. How does this work? Let's get into understanding it. When we do the first ones, we get the a squared. When we do the last ones, we get that negative 25. That's how we set this up. What on earth is going on with those middle terms? It looks a little something like this. So when we do it, you have the negative 5 times a, or minus 5 times a. So you have minus 5a. And then you have a positive 5 times a plus 5a. And you guys know at this point, a negative, if you do like negative and then plus the same amount, it's going to get you to 0, right? So if you have negative 5a plus 5a, that gets you to 0. Negative 8 plus 8, it gets you to 0, right? If you had done it the other way around and you had plus 5a minus 5a, same exact thing. If you have 5 and you subtract 5, you end up at 0. If you have 5a and you subtract 5a, you're going to end up at 0, right? So no matter what, this whole middle term thing is going to cancel itself out, which is why we end up with just the a squared minus 25 as our final answer. That middle stuff goes away. Let's do this with one more. This is our next one. A squared minus b squared. Now we don't have any numbers, but it's going to be the same thing. You guys already know it's going to be the same thing. We've talked about it already. Okay. First, we're going to put our two parentheses, then we're going to put our a's, such a surprise, then we're going to put our b's, can't even believe it. Then we are going to figure out if it is plus plus, minus minus, plus minus, or minus plus, and you guessed it, it's definitely not going to be those first two. Either of these last two doesn't make any difference, so plus minus, we can do minus plus. Either way. Why? Because plus b minus b would be the same thing as minus b plus b. One way or the other, it's going to be the same. All right, cool. How does this work out? Why does this work? Because when you do a squared, there you go, plus b minus b, that's going to get you a negative b squared or minus b squared, which is what we want. And those lovely middle terms totally disappear. Minus ab plus ab, that goes away. Again, I cannot stress this enough. If that middle term simplification doesn't make sense to you, now is the time to go do some combined like terms. That being said, this problem right here, a squared minus b squared, is the single biggest thing that trips kids up in factoring. The single biggest thing, and you right now have the skill, have the power to not be tripped up by this in the future. This question, a squared minus b squared, factor a squared minus b squared. It doesn't look factorable. You're like, what on earth? This doesn't look anything like there's no middle term. I don't know what's going on. What's up here? Now you know. And literally, you can just memorize this. It doesn't matter if it's x squared minus y squared, a squared minus b squared. It doesn't matter what the letters are. You can literally just memorize that this is what it looks like. A plus b, a minus b. X plus y, x minus y. Whatever it is. You also should understand the derivation. You should understand where it comes from, but you can just memorize it, okay? So, This is super important for a couple of reasons. One, you're going to see this problem a lot and it'll say factor this. Also, though, you will see a lot of problems that just have, especially on the SAT, okay, that'll just have a squared minus b squared as part of the problem. Like, oh, a squared minus b squared equals 20. Can you figure out what a and b equal? Here's some extra information. It'll tell you some stuff. Every time you see a squared minus b squared, I guarantee you, 100% guarantee you, that the first step that you do should be factoring. It's always going to be factoring first, okay? A squared minus b squared is a thing that you factor. Difference of squares, we always factor. It's factoring. That's what you want to do. Difference of squares, you're going to factor. Last thing here, notice that this is called difference of squares. It is not called sum of squares. Why? Because this doesn't work if it's plus. A squared plus b squared is the only thing that it just looks so factorable. X squared plus y squared, it looks so factorable. You're like, oh my gosh, I got this. I know I put the x here, I put the y here, I got this. X squared plus y squared, totally not factorable, okay? A squared plus b squared, it doesn't work. It's not a sum of squares, it's a difference of squares. So this right here totally works, but if it's a plus sign, it is not simplifiable at all. All right, I'm done talking. You guys go practice. Ready, set, go.